wanted mud and off-road, you found it.
You can't believe how much power nature's got when it wants to let loose.
Felt like someone was watching me.
This is just amazing. It's like we're driving through the middle of a lake.
Holy smokes!
It literally looks like an ocean.
That is phenomenal. I wonder what it's done to the road up ahead.
It's just incredible to see. You see these scenes on the news all the time and you just don't think how big it is, but in person it is just huge.
Mind blowing. It's amazing the power of floodwater.
Got to a point where we physically just couldn't drive any further. We pulled up, everyone got out of the cars, we went for a walk over where the damage had occurred.
It was absolutely crazy. It was more than anything I expected. It's more destruction than I've seen ever.
A pretty amazing sight with bitumen just been torn out of the ground, big concrete culverts that just been shoved around by the water.
It just looked like absolute carnage. A few guys slipped into the mud.
About that far into it and I couldn't get my foot out. It was like a great big suction cup.
A few of us tried to venture over to the other side of the construction and Ruben's kids fell in, which was pretty funny.
So we went for a bit of an explore, and then you went and got yourself stuck up on the culverts that had washed away.
You picked me up really awkwardly. You sunk straight down into the mud.
How about this? You know, you go to save someone, and now they're still muddy.
So we headed on to our next stop, which was past the cattle roads.
Livestock get caught on islands when the floodwaters come up, because we don't get them. They either starve to death or flies get them and they die. We asked Simon to actually do us a favour and actually go out and see whether there was livestock, because if there is, we can talk to the Western Lands and they actually bring in helicopters and we helicopter them out of harm's way. So it really is doing a social good.
We followed a fence line track for a couple of kilometres, I reckon. Got to a spot where we couldn't go any further.
Guys, I found a spot where we could probably cross. There's a little bit of mud between us and the dry high ground. Well, what do you reckon? You want to come over and have a crack?
We actually ended up in swamp grounds.
We thought we'd just be cautious, get out and check it out. Could feel how soft it was underfoot.
Very soft, very wet, very slippery, so should be fun.
We thought it looks a bit tricky, we'll get somebody to go test it out. If he gets through, then we'll give it a crack. That's when the fun started.
Simon being Simon put on a bit of a show and tried to cross a little bit of it.
He's come in, he's gone to pull third, missed third gear and gone straight in the mud.
It was just churning up mud.
Got it backwards and forwarding, but there was no way he was going forward.
Stuck in like a big suction cup.
You wanted mud and off-road, you found it.
He's a fair way in there and everybody's gone, who's got the heaviest car here? 200 series, of course.
Mike's come to the rescue with his big 200 and the winch.
In a bit of a pickle, but lucky we were there with a lot of good recovery gear to get him straight out.
Got Simon to get out of the car. Honey got behind the wheel and held it nice and straight. We just started pulling him back and the old rope, she got to work out.
Thanks, Mike. All right, James, go up. All right, James, come on.
Get him start in third, just hold it flat in third all the way through. Mike ripped him out backwards, but that wasn't enough for Simon. He wanted to see if he could make it all the way through. So he's gone back nearly to Brisbane, I swear, to get a run-up.
But this time he was a bit further across and he had a bit more momentum.
He's coming flying across the paddock. He's managed to pull third gear this time. And for a minute there, I actually thought he had it.
Oh no! He's made it wayward! Well done, Simon!
Unfortunately, he was so far in, we couldn't winch him back.
Righto, Jimmy, across you go.
He ended up winching forward then off the tree.
It's really important to use the correct gear that's in good condition. When things go wrong in a recovery, it can be life-threatening, so it's not something that you want to take shortcuts with.
The couple winches out, he decided he had enough and he tried to find a way out of there.
Unfortunately, what happened is that he became stranded.
The path that we'd chosen didn't actually go anywhere and it was hemmed in by floodwaters on all sides. We had to come back around and attempt the water crossing in a different location. There was this other section that had probably 8 inches of water through it.
It did look pretty daunting where he had to go. Ruben was kind enough to volunteer to be ready to grab the winch cables.
Boots are off because I'm going to be going in there and I'm going to be getting the winch. I gave him a 1% chance to get across that. 99% sure that he was actually going to go straight in and we're going to have a big winch on our hands.
I reckon he come through there at highway speed. I thought he was going to run over a lot of us.
I was nice and clean all day until he made us all a nice mud show.
Well, that wasn't unexpected. Have a go at that! I gave him 1% chance and he's pulled it off. You beauty! I put my shoes back on.
Speed and water.
Yeah. Floating like a butterfly.
Certainly felt good.
All of us just looked at each other and just thought, nah, we're not doing this. We just want to go back.
Last thing I want to do is have to come back here to camp and spend my time cleaning the car. We're going to sit back and relax for a few hours, get a fire going and just chill out.
We're right on the beautiful Darling River. We put a yabby nets out this morning.
What a great way to end the night again in the beautiful Talano station.
With the adults relaxing by the river and the Austrac camper fully set up, I got busy cooking dinner for the crew, whilst the kids headed off for an adventure on their own.
Give us a wave at the camera. It's your last wave before you get taken from the ghost.
Come for a little wander inside. There's about 9 ghosts who hang around. We do have a resident ghost, Christine. I guess Christine's been seen by about 500 people.
They said that she was
a happy ghost. She was protecting the place.
Yes.
Please come into Christine's room. When you enter, she's standing up in that corner.
When Rob put the torch up to his face in the dark, it was kind of creepy, I'm not going to lie.
Death was very much part of the life cycle out here, a lot earlier than in cities.
I didn't want to.
I could kind of sense like a presence.
There was a young lady levitating above her bed, looking down on her. You kind of put questions and doubts in their mind and just fun, scaring the hell out of them. And you often saw silhouettes.
I tell you what was most scary about the ghost tour was, Rob.
I am cooking up a storm on the Austrac camper kitchen. I need something that is simple, easy and quick, just as quick as the kitchen is to set up to cook. We are having satay noodles with chicken and a few vegetables. All right. Have a crack at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
And everybody is fed and happy.
Simon's had us up way before the chickens this morning to get an early start.
So we woke up this morning to a beautiful sunrise coming up over the sand dunes.
Had to have breakfast, had to have coffee, got organised, packed everything up.
And we're on the road by 7 a.m.
Which if you're on normal time in Queensland was 6 a.m, so it was very early on. Still pretty cool.
Day 3 and it's a chilly one this morning. We've even got the seat warmers on in the Raptor. Too early.
And what's in store for us today?
We're heading from Pooncarie towards Lake Tandau to get back onto the bitumen to cut through to Menindee Lakes.
Menindee from Talano Station is normally around about a 70 to 80 kilometre drive. The floodwater just took out the whole roadway to Menindee, so we had to go 300 k's around.
So unfortunately a quick trip turned into a long day.
It's just going to be one big road trip by the sounds of it.
Straight out of Pooncarie, we turned right over the Darling River Bridge. As you can see out the window just here, this is floodplain on the Darling River. And as far as you can see, all the way out this side, all the way out to the horizon, both sides of the road, it's pretty unbelievable. Basically like driving through an inland sea, the roadway was the only exposed bit of ground you could see.
Unfortunately, Grant's son, young James, had to head back to Melbourne as he was about to start a new apprenticeship.
Bye. See you, lad.
There's little flies.
Calm down. Really noticed with all the water around at the moment is the bird life.
Yeah, we're just cruising along here and we've just spotted some emu. That's something you definitely don't see every day.
And you could actually see the fish jumping out of the water.
All the boys that are banging to fish and we're getting pretty excited. You could see all different marks in the water where the fish were jumping.
The spot would have been perfect for fishing. It's just a shame I forgot my rod at home.
So not long after we'd been on the gravel, it's pretty amazing to see that we come across a huge flock of sheep. Farmers moving them from one grazing area to another. Now that was a sight to behold. Roughly 1,000 sheep.
Farmer's there trying to round up his sheep and move them from paddock to paddock. We had his Kelpie dog across the lap on his motorbike. It was really cool to see him round it up and do their thing and get the sheep into where they needed to go.
It's important to remember that when you're transiting through these areas, a lot of them are active sheep stations, so you just got to be always very conscious of making sure you don't disturb the animals and just be respectful. So we just pull over to one side, waited till he got the sheep into one of the paddocks, and then we proceeded on.
I tell you what, there was a lot of sheep there, a lot of lamb cutlets.
Then we hit the long road west towards the Silver Highway.
In the distance we're seeing this huge pile of red sand and we're thinking what's going on here.
As we got closer, it was a mine site.
It's called Snapper and Ginkgo. From a distance, it did look like Ayers Rock.
Well, you can't see a whole lot of it from the road. You can see the huge tailing piles that run up against the fence, and it's amazing to see the amount of material that gets moved out of an open cut mine.
I honestly thought I was in the Northern Territory because that thing looked exactly like Uluru.
Jason, I've been blown away by the amount of water, but here out at the Outer Branch, this is just crazy.
It's been a long time. It's quite spectacular out of this country.
Jason?
Yeah, I started talking, but I'll probably need the radio too, eh?
In all my years coming up to Broken Hill, I've never ever seen water in here, so spectacular. James, have you seen water in here before?
I have actually, Simon. It's not a very common sight.
It's a river system that only runs during flood times.
Old Mike, how's the country looking?
It's looking fabulous. That river there, that's going to do a lot of good for a lot of land out here. A lot of sheep and goats and God only knows what else.
There's still another 200 odd kilometres to get there.
So off the Silver City Highway, we turned down the Tandau Road, mostly dirt road. Not far along there, you do get to Lake Tandau.
This is usually a super dry terrain, but surprisingly it was super green.
It is now back to nice green vegetation.
Big plumes of smoke come rushing up and it's really hard to see.
There was quite heavy dust on there. There was 400 to 500 metre spacing between each of the cars. Main thing on these dirt roads is keep your headlights on, keep your distance from the people in front so you're not driving into dust.
With the dust, the communication on the UHFs is very, very important. Just looking for hazards, wildlife, and just being able to keep everyone aware if there was any potential dangers coming up.
The dust clouds were pretty intense. If the wind wasn't blowing, the dust cloud was impenetrable.
We got a bit closer to Menindee, we actually came across some goats.
Simon yelled out, goats on the side of the road, and there was a couple of very, very young ones. Really quite gorgeous. And the kids walked up and picked them up and gave them a pat and a bit of a cuddle.
I'm keeping it.
But at the end of the day, there's still wild animals, so we put them back and they went back into the bush.
Next stop was Lake Corndilla. This is one of the big lakes in the Menindee Lake system. You can see it on your left as you approach a vast expanse of water.
We all kind of bunch up and slow down just to have a bit of a marvel.
It's just massive, like unbelievably massive amount of water. Pretty amazing to see them at 100+%.
It would have been probably 15 kilometres to the other bank. It was massive.
But really interesting to see. At a red desert with light green, lime coloured water. It was very, very strange, but very cool to see at the same time.
Once we'd crossed over there, the next stop was Menindee Lakes.
Population 550 in Menindee. Small little community, but we were well received.
We didn't roll in there till fairly late in the day. That really wasn't helped at all by the big sign out front of town that says "Welcome to Yabbyland," which just made everyone hungrier.
Stopped in at the Rensed's Cafe for a quick bite to eat. If you ever come out here, definitely well worth the trip.
The history on the wall, I mean, there was photos of Talano Station and also photos from the 56 floods. And to see the amount of water that came down was unbelievable. This flood didn't quite get there, but it was very close.
The food there was amazing. Everyone left full bellies, very happy.
We're now on our way out to meet a mate of mine, Ross Ledra, who's going to give us a little bit of a unique look at the lake.
My name's Ross Ledra. I'm a resident of Sunset Strip, which is a village of approximately 130 homes, and it's on the northern end of Lake Menindee.
Sort of a hidden gem on the banks of Menindee Lake.
It was like it was a different world. We go from all these desolate areas, you definitely see the red soil underneath, even though the greenery was starting to poke through. But here it was like we'd gone back, we were back on the east coast of Australia, everything was green, lush, well manicured, and you could just see what all this water has done for this tiny little community.
It was amazing to see the amount of water that's in there. You can even see the line of trees further out where the water usually is, and that was quite a distance out.
Ross gave us a lot of really good history and information about the lake.
There's a strong Aboriginal presence, the Barkindji. On the lake's edge there was thousands of Aboriginal people going back 40,000 years when it began. So it's very, very important to the Aboriginal people. If you go from here on the Anna Branch, those lakes hadn't had water in them for 15 years. Well, now they've got water and getting back to as it should be.
With another day drawing to a close, the crew looked forward to what lay ahead. Join us next week as we continue to see the impact the floods have had on the area and put the vehicles to work on some soft sandy dunes. You don't want to miss it.